Welcome to Between Authors. I am your host, author Adrian Lopez. If you enjoyed this episode today, don't forget to like and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification so you don't miss all the amazing guests coming up. What is it that excites us as a reader? It's finding that author or book you may never have heard of or found of before, sort of like the treasure hunt for a reader. My goal for this podcast is to find those authors or books that you may never have heard of, but may have been the treasure you have been searching for all along. Today in episode 11, we have Amber Champagne. She is a writer, a comedian, a GIF guru, and the modern day Willy Wonka on Twitter. We'll go over what she's working on, what her plans are for the future, and what she's actually doing in terms of writing and the current process. Welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited for you to be here as well. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers, give them a little bit of background or just kind of, what makes Amber tick?
Oh, that's such a loaded question. Okay, so I'm Amber Champagne. I am a writer. I write primarily TV scripts is what I'm really working on now. I have written books and whatnot. I have a couple best-selling credits for collaborative projects that I've worked on with other writers. So yeah, I do a lot of writing. I'm also a business owner though, so I do own. Oh my gosh, hold on, sorry. We're not listening to that. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so I do own a business. I own an apothecary and I own a skincare line that sells all over the country. I'm a licensed esthetician and an herbalist as well. So I have a lot of, I wear a lot of hats is really like my gig. And yes, I love X. I'm a big fan. I'm on there growing a community, connecting with other writers, which is awesome. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Honestly, I don't even know where to start when it comes to myself sometimes because it's just there's so many moving pieces. Yeah. And it's so there's so many dynamics and whatnot that it's just a lot. Just know that I like to keep myself busy and I put my hat in the ring for a lot of things.
It's the best way to do it, honestly. I mean, I love doing the same thing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your influences? It could be anything. It could be in terms of your business. It can be in terms of the writing, the comedy.
Yeah. So, in terms of my business, I'm just super into holistic health science. I'm a huge science nerd. I'm a nerd in general. I love nerdy things like that. I read studies constantly. I'm very well versed in skin science and all that goes on in the skin's microbiome and whatnot. So it's I love stuff like that. So I'm very influenced by people who have good knowledge when it comes to those things. There's this guy, his name is Perry Romanovsky. I absolutely think he's just a gem. He is a cosmetic chemist. And he is a great teacher. He breaks things down. He knows how to explain things to people who maybe don't have enough background in cosmetic chemistry and science in the science world. He has he's done huge things. He's been the president of the Cosmetic Chemistry Association, all kinds of stuff. He's an amazing person. So yeah, so there's a lot of people like that in that side of the world that I really enjoy and get a lot of information, education, influence from. And then in my writing world, I love anybody who writes great comedic timing. Dan Levy, I would say Dan Levy and Mindy Kaling are definitely two of my favorite writers when it comes to comedy television. Their writing is just phenomenal. I mean, Mindy Kaling, especially, she has had such an incredible journey and has become such a icon really in the writing in the comedic writing world. I want to be Mindy Kaling when I grow up. So so that's kind of the thought process there in that. And then I love there's a lot of great comedians I love too, Nate Bargatze and his whole crew, Dusty Slay, Aaron Weber, Brian Bates. They're all amazing people. They're incredible comedians. So yeah, I mean, I could probably go on and on and on about people who inspire me daily. I seek out a lot of people who inspire me so that I can continue to do what I need to do. Funny enough, though, I also don't read a lot of people's writing read a lot of like, things that are like applicable to what I'm working on currently, or watch a lot of stand up when I'm in my stand up moments. Specifically when I'm actually doing it. I do a lot of it outside of that, but when I'm in a project and I'm working on something, I tend to steer clear away from everything because I don't actually want to be influenced or feel like I'm tied to something. So that's kind of like a weird conundrum that I find myself in. But
No, I've actually done the same thing. So I have a werewolf book that I'm writing, going to be editing now, and there's a lot of friends on Twitter X as well that have written werewolf books, and I just do not want to read anything for that reason. Not that you're going to purposely do anything, but you just don't want an image or something to pop in your head that it's influenced. You just want something that you're kind of building yourself. So I completely understand that. I've been doing the same thing, just trying to avoid, try not watching any of the movies I normally would have watched, just staying away from it completely.
I
So I
love
do understand that.
Yeah, I love that you say that because I feel like every time I tell somebody that, they look at me like I have three heads. Like it's expected that writers would constantly be reading and diving into things. But I'm like, sometimes I seriously just need to cut myself off from everything so that I can focus on what I want to do.
You have to. I mean, if you want it to be genuinely from you, you have to do that. You really have to, because again, you're not going to do anything purposely. But if you're watching stuff and you're reading stuff, it's just that subconscious. You go, oh, this sounds good, and you're going to completely forgot that you heard that or read that because you're just just immersed with it, and it's. I just stay away from it. So I'm completely with you. I understand that.
Thank goodness. Thank you. I feel
No
better
worries.
about myself now.
So I know you're currently writing your comedy pilot.
Mhm.
So why don't you give us as little as much as you want to on that?
Yeah, so I wrote a comedy pilot recently. I submitted it to the final draft big break contest. I got incredible feedback on it. It did not proceed, but I just found out that it did not proceed to the next round. But I did get awesome feedback on it. There's some things that I just need to like tweak and whatnot, and I'll definitely be submitting that to some other things as well. And of course, like we're in a standstill right now in terms of like trying to actually do anything with anything, right? Because that whole strike is going on, and we don't know when that'll come to an end. But I do have plans for that. And then I also currently am taking another class with Brent Forrester, who used to be a showrunner for The Office. And he incredible teacher. If you are interested in script writing, TV comedy script writing, I would 100% tell you to go check out his class. I think he teaches it like twice a year now at this point. But just a really great teacher, has some incredible tips and like lots of great systems that he will show you on how to get through your pilot. I think we're in like week 3 or 4 right now, and I'm already outlining and dialoguing. So it's like you could see how fast it's moving, because typically when you're thinking pilot or script or episode, right? A lot of people are in writers' rooms and they do get them done in 3 to 4 weeks, but they have a team of however many people working on it. You're one person, so you can just see like what he does in terms of showing you how to write. Especially if you've done it before with him, you're like, okay, I'm on it. It's good. So he's amazing. And I'm writing a pilot right now, currently, where I'm creating yet another world. So like the last pilot I created was like in an animated world. It has to do with zombies, but in a very different way that you've not seen them before. I'm really excited about it. I really haven't told a lot of people about any of that stuff because again, I really want to move that to something. It is registered like with the WGA and everything, so it's there, but yeah, so I like to create worlds. So like in kind of crazy, chaotic worlds, like where lots of things are happening. So that I can tell you I am doing yet again in this pilot, creating kind of a crazy, kooky world. What's interesting is that it is taking a lot of different things from my own life as like a business owner, as someone who participates in a pretty like hectic, incredible event that I also don't want to get into because it's a surprise that I have for my ex, my ex-hive, coming up soon. I'm telling you all these things about the pilot, but I'm like really not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a crazy, like chaotic, fun world. But ideally, it's following along this woman and her son and kind of their journey and like differences in how they are as people and kind of figuring themselves out. And then, her eventually having like a very like poignant turn in her own journey of trying to discover how to connect deeply with other human beings, because it's something she hasn't really done in her life. So there is like a very nice storyline and thought process between the main character and her son. But it takes place in this really hectic, fun, crazy world with lots of kooky characters.
Actually sounds great. So I have a couple of questions I generally ask the guests. What was your favorite part to write in this pilot so far, or maybe something you just added to it?
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny that you asked me this now, because something just happened this past week where I was doing cards. So there's a system that people use, and it's called cards, and they put it on different color cards, and then you do act by act, and you do like ABC storyline. Now, a C storyline in a comedy pilot or a comedy episode is usually probably just like a running bit. It's not like too much of anything. But I came up with this really funny running bit about about like corporate execs kind of like peeking themselves into like this crazy chaotic situation in each one of the acts. And I'm really excited about it. Like the other day when I was doing cards, I was actually doing it on a live on X. I'm telling you, I'm like always on there. So I was actually doing my cards on a live on X, and I was talking through what I was doing, and I had this random thought about, bringing them in just like on a one-time thing. But then I was like, oh my gosh, I can take this and I can run with this and have this as like a C line story bit. So that has been my most favorite, like, oh yeah, we're going to do that. So far. And I really enjoyed doing the cards this time around, because I've done cards now multiple times over like the past few years, just writing out lots of different episodes. And in the beginning, it was very hard for me to figure out, what's what. It seems like it's so easy to put a scene on a card, and try to get through it and just like outline it. But it truly has been one of the hardest things for me. And this time around, it just came so easily. And so I think that's why I enjoyed it a lot too.
Sounds good. I mean, that's one of the things a lot of people, especially for newer writers, is the fact that you said your pilot didn't move forward, and as you kept going, you found something else. I mean, that's always the bottom line, is it's never going to be perfect the first time. Don't get discouraged. Just keep going at it, because we all are going to always keep learning. I mean, you're never going to know, no matter what you're the expert in, you're never going to know everything, and you're just going to keep getting better at it. So, I mean, that's kind of the message for all those younger writers or the newer writers that are out there, is just don't give up. Just keep trying. Don't take, the declines or the passes as the final word, and just keep moving forward on that side.
That's so true. Did you see that? Did you see there was like a writer that had a picture going around of like I think it was like a fence that she was painting on every time she got a rejection?
I know what you mean, but I think I did. I mean, I'm on X as much as you are, and I see everything. I
Yeah.
think I did. I think I did.
Yeah, so I loved it, because I was like, she kind of painted like a little picture every time she got a rejection, and I'm assuming it has to do with whatever the rejection she got was. But a really cool way to look at it, because it was just like there was so many, you know what I'm saying? And really truly that is what happens. And you have to remember at the end of the day as a writer that writing truly is subjective in terms of getting picked up. So when you're dealing with somebody, it might just not be the person for you that's looking at the writing. I mean, J.K. Rowling herself had her Harry Potter turned down like 13 times, before she went on to be one of the most well-paid writers of all time. So it's definitely something that you really need to continue to do, because I don't think I've ever known any writer who has said, yeah, my first time submitting something, I got a deal. I mean, I'm sure maybe there's somebody out there, but I would say no, like for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's like hitting the lottery. You're going to have to submit it to that one person that's looking for that specific storyline, that specific style. It's not likely. I mean, it's possible, but it's just not likely.
It's true. And you know what? Honestly, at the end of the day, it takes courage just to even submit it. So, I mean, if you're at a point where you're even submitting or even showing a writing partner your writing, it's a vulnerable place to be. So it's like if you're doing that, kudos to you, because it's a huge step forward as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've mentioned before that I've written since I was a kid, poems and everything, but I never showed it anybody. It was always just it was mine. I did it, I read it, I kept it, or I didn't keep it. But it was always something I just did for myself. And yeah, it is a step for you to finally say, okay, here's what I write, and here's what here's my vision or my words, and just put it out there. So it is difficult sometimes for some people.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in terms of the comedy pilot, was there a scene or an area of it that was the hardest to write? That's something that gave you struggles or trouble?
Yes. I think, going back to my last pilot that I worked on, the intro to that pilot was like a nightmare. I tried, so what I do when I can't figure out a scene, or I need like I need more substance to an episode, I will go and write sketches. And then I like for the character. So I do obviously tons and tons of character dev. I believe in doing very crazy character dev before I start writing, because it's almost like when I do that, the story just kind of comes along on its own. Once you know about all these people and you know their backstory, you know how they interact with each other, and you know all those things, the rest of the storyline and the dialogue just comes so easy. But there's still times where you get caught up. So what I do typically is I'll take those character dev profiles and I'll look at them and I'll say, okay, how can I make a sketch about, I don't know, X, random stuff. I'll just write sketches. So I wrote so many sketches trying to figure out what I was going to do in the beginning of that pilot. I did not know it was the thing that was plaguing me actually for like a couple months. I tried so many different things and everything just wasn't sitting the right way. So and then finally it was crazy. Like one morning I just woke up and I started thinking about my character, and I was like, just because I just had her on the mind. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like constantly like, what is she doing? What's going to happen in this beginning? And how am I going to show these people? And I came up with this awesome, just very quick to the point, like drop in of her life before, her life after, like what was going on. And it was just epic. And that was one of the things that actually I got such incredible feedback on when I was sent all my feedback for that pilot, was how captivating the intro to the pilot was. And I was like, thank God, because I tried so many intros, and yeah, and I just happened to I was sitting there thinking about her, and I was like, man, and I just took some of her traits, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can just do, and then flip them and show it in the new light. And so that's exactly what I did, and that's how that came out. So that was like definitely, like, during that last time was something that I was struggling with. This time I was struggling with the idea of where the setting should actually take place, if it should be in this kind of like kooky, crazy, chaotic world, or if that kooky, crazy, chaotic world should kind of be like a side character, if you will. And so I went back and forth on that, and I didn't know if I should like which way I should essentially go. But then I had a conversation with a writing partner, and they were like, you should absolutely flip this and like put her in that, because it's going to make her uncomfortable. It's going to make her, need to actually break through and like do some different things and have epiphanies. And I was like, you're right. You're 100% right. So that person actually helped me a lot to figure out, okay, yeah, I need to go this way, because I was at one point, like a couple weeks ago, physically writing through two different storylines, and it was getting so crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you have to do any research for the pilot for any part of it?
Yes. So this one is like, again, it's based on a lot of stuff that I actually do in my own life. So being a business owner, taking part in this kind of crazy situation that you guys will find out that I'm in, lots of different things that I'm kind of personally involved in. So not so much on this one so far. I also have, I also have a son who's almost like the same kind of situation in age, from like her and her son. So it's like, so there's a lot of like pull from my own natural life for this one, and it feels like things are just kind of flowing. The last one, yes, because there was so many things that I wanted to know about what people's perceptions were about zombies, what people understood about them, like what people, what people thought when they thought of that, like where all of those origins came from. So I learned a lot about all of that and how, like, really the way that we view zombies now actually came about like in like the 60s or something, where it was just like, I think it was like Night of the Living Dead, if I'm correct in that. That was kind of like one of the first things that was like, hey, here's these zombies in this nature, because I'm deconstructing it. So I wanted to make sure that I knew all of that, like where that all came from, like what all of that like thought process was behind that, so that I could correctly deconstruct it so that people would understand where I'm coming from. So yeah, I did a lot of research on zombies, which sounds really weird, but it's really true.
Yeah, again, it makes sense. I did the same thing for my werewolf book because I didn't want it to be the same story that you usually hear. So I
Yes.
tried to look at all these different angles and say, okay, what can I do different to keep it different? Just something unique, a different take on it. And so again, I understand completely where you're coming from on that, because if you don't understand that, you just don't wind up in the same storyline that's kind of been out there. So I do understand that completely. I know you said you've written several pilots and stuff before, but has the process of writing these last few, maybe it's with the classes you're taking or something outside of the class, has it changed your writing process and how you approach these?
Oh yeah. It has changed my writing process so much. Working with Brent, I have taken 3 separate classes with Brent over the last couple of years, and I'm telling you, I cannot recommend more to someone who wants to write comedic TV pilots or episodes to take a class with him, because and the crazy thing is like the stuff that I'm recognizing and picking up on now this third time is not the stuff that I recognized and picked up on the first time, right? So it's he goes through a lot of the same processes, if you will, but he always adds like all these like additional golden nuggets and different things that he talks to other writers and showrunners about and stuff. So that's always nice to hear, kind of like those behind the scenes things. And his processes that he shares are they're really easy to use when you actually understand how to use them. So like right now, like I just said earlier about the cards, like using the cards now, I'm getting an understanding like what exactly I need to do before I get to cards, so that when I get to cards, it does flow out easier, because before I've tried it and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And I will say, I think one of the most major things that has changed about my writing process, working with him, and then especially like just working in and looking at things myself like throughout the last few years, is character development. I cannot express more how important deep character development really truly is to writing TV, and understanding how these people are going to, go through all the different things that they're going to go through in a, 4 season like story arc. You know what I'm saying? So you really, what's interesting is that when I first started writing pilots, like years ago, I started writing probably close to 10 years ago, TV type stuff. And when I first started writing, they used to want you to send in these pitch packets where you would have to, write, my gosh, like a few episodes and have a thought process on the next 8 episodes and have all the like characters done and I mean, it was like the amount of work that you were doing is insane, because ideally they're going to take that in and they're going to go and put it in a writer's room and they're going to hash it out the way they want to hash it out anyways, right? Now it's a little less like that, and I think streaming and different things and the way that things operate has like changed that. But the character development has not changed, because the character development is so important to actually making sure that you're able to like write a story. So I think for me personally, diving into character development and making sure that I have like so much on these people, like if I started telling you about my main character right now, I could tell you about her entire life, which is insane. It's like actually it bogs you down when you're trying to like, Goldilocks your story or like tell somebody about like what's going on. You're like, well, it's also because she had like the I mean, like, and you're like off into rant world. But it's all of those things that actually make it so much easier to write. And I just was on with Brent a couple weeks ago and I was talking to him on Zoom during our class. And he asked me about my character dev because we were in the week of like doing all of that. And he was like, how's it going? And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that you asked me this. I am so stoked. I have so much going on. And I explained to him where I was. And he was like, I cannot express to you how important it is and how amazing it is to hear you say that you're working so much on character development, because there are writers that I've known that have worked for 10, 12 years professionally, and then all of a sudden they have an aha moment one day being like, we don't know anything about this character. We can't write about this character. He actually was telling us about a show that he was working on with Rebel Wilson, and they got into this like series, and I think they got to episode 7, he said. And by episode 7, he said, all of us, and we're all experienced writers in the room. He's like, we're all looking at each other going like, we can't write them anymore about these characters. They don't even have goals. Like, what are they even trying to achieve? So then they tried to like push some things in, but by then it was like, now you're
forcing it.
Yeah,
you're forcing it in.
Yeah, so it's like, so that for me, I think has been like the biggest change, is just really focusing on character development and making sure that I really know who these characters are before I ever start writing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a big point, not only for television, but books as well. If the reader, the viewer, they have to care somewhat about the character, right? And that could be an extreme dislike of the character, or absolutely loving the character and wanting them to succeed or see where they go. But if you don't have that, you're just not going to have that viewership. They're just not going to be into it. It's just going to kind of fall away. So that's an excellent point again that you made for the character development for anything, right? Whether it's a pilot, TV series, or a book. I know you've mentioned you've done some other stuff in the past. Is there anything else you are writing or planning on writing separate from the pilots?
Yeah, I've been working on a book forever, a novel about a girl who lives in a very tiny town in Massachusetts that's made up, and who takes off to California after she graduates high school. She just kind of like up and leaves, doesn't really tell her family. She comes back to the town to see, so her brother's actually getting married. So she comes back to the town. She hasn't been there in like 10 years. And then lots of interesting, mysterious things start happening. Police show up. They're looking for her. There's lots of there's lots of interesting things that are going on. She has this like full life back in California, with friends in the Palisades and like all kinds of stuff like that. So again, lending interesting things for my life because I have lived on both coasts. And so I know those things very well. And so, yeah, I've been working on that for a long time. I'm on, I think, chapter 8 right now in that book. But I keep going back to it. It's just like whenever I get inspiration, I don't know how you are as a writer, but for me, people always say you need to write every day. I'm sorry, I cannot do that. To me, it's like I write enough in terms of copy, for my business, or write enough in terms of like on X, like in long form or whatever it is. I feel like I'm constantly writing, right? But for me to sit down and actually say, no, I have to work on such and such, or I have to work on a project or something today and do that kind of writing, I can't do that. Like it just doesn't work for me. I feel like it's forced, and then I just end up sitting there doing nothing. And I feel like that's a waste of time. So whenever I get the inspiration to do something though, like if I suddenly am like, ooh, I have an idea for that book, I will pull out my laptop so quick and I will just start writing, and I could be sitting there for like 8 hours, So it just depends on like when I get the inspiration to go back in, and when I'm not working on some kind of episode. I will go back to that because I do want to finish that book.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you in a lot of these things, but yeah, a lot of my werewolf book came from just images in my head, where I just had an image of something that went into a scene. Then there's a couple other scenes from that scene. I said, okay, well, why did that scene happen? Where does it happen in the story? So then I came up with like 2 or 3 scenes, and then all of my writing from that point was kind of putting the story together and connecting those scenes where they're at in the book. But yeah, I agree. I don't write every day because if you're trying to force it again, it's not going to be the story you want. You're just putting words down. And again, I'm not saying that for every writer. Maybe writers, that is their focus point. Sit down, sit there and focus, and it'll come to them. A lot of times when I wrote this, it was every day. I came up like, oh, wait a minute, I thought of something. I think I should do it this way, and then went in there. And yeah, it happens. But I'm not the same. I'm not in the same class where I have to do this every day. If I don't feel it, I'm not. I don't think of what I want to do. I'm just not gonna try to force it. I'd rather have it just generally, naturally come out.
Yeah, same.
So I know you mentioned a little bit about the business owner side. I know you have the apothecary. I believe you have a store location, and you do have your line, which is Ethis. Why don't you talk a little bit about both of those?
Yeah, so yeah, I have an apothecary. I do have a storefront, and it's all like self-care, holistic wellness. Like I said, I'm an esthetician and an herbalist, so I do a lot of things in that. But it's also a lot more than what people think it is. We have 400 SKUs in the store, so it's a small place, but it's also it's very well versed in a lot of different things within self-care and holistic wellness. Lots of tinctures and body care and candles and essential oils, like anything that could help you to like kind of relax and calm yourself or whatnot, or take care of yourself. So there's that. And I love that. It's just like a really nice place to hang out. Sometimes I'm even writing at work. It's pretty amazing life. Super thankful for that. And then the skincare line I have is called Ethis, like you said. It's all gluten-free, paraben-free, cruelty-free, vegan, fragrance-free, and made in the US. So everything you could ever want. It's also based in real skin science around your skin's microbiome. So what it does is it actually inside of the products has the ingredients that naturally live in your skin and help to propagate your system. So for example, people think that they're going to put collagen on their face and they're going to get collagen. But that's not the way that it works. You need ceramides, you need vitamin C, you need phospholipids. Those things live inside of the products and help to prop your systems the right way. So like if your system needs that in order to function properly, it's being replenished, it's giving back to the skin, and then it's functioning at its optimal level. So it helps like your skin oil process, your skin hydration process, your collagen process, like I said. And also helps to combat hormonal issues and aging simultaneously, which is almost unheard of in the skincare industry, and why our skin line is doing so well. Typically what you see aging products are too heavy for those dealing with hormonal issues, which by the way is pretty much every single one of us. By the time we're in our mid-20s, it's like our hormones just start going crazy in our bodies. And then hormonal treatments are too aggressive and cause aging. So it's like you're kind of combating aging products typically, like when you're using those, and vice versa. But this does everything without causing problems for either side, because again, it's really like based on that skin microbiome and what's naturally happening in there. So we're not like going like, we have this cutting edge ingredient and like you should use it. It's like, no, what it is it's your skin science just bottled essentially.
Yeah. I mean, again, I've mentioned it maybe once or twice, but I used to work in the cosmetic industry for an actual manufacturer. And, what you're doing is available, but a lot of people don't do it with the actual ingredients that you actually need to heal, to help, to nurture some of these, conditions or situations that you're trying to avoid. There's way too many lines in the industry that there's certain ingredients they put to make it foam more, so you think it's doing something, or to make it tingle, because again, you think it's cleaning or you think it's doing this. And it's kind of sad in that industry that they do that so much, and then they charge a fortune because they have, oh, mine foams more than everybody else, so it's definitely doing something more than the other ones.
Yeah.
And it's great that you're doing it using the actual science of what's needed, what your skin and your body actually need, because it's known, it's out there. But generally, the companies don't want to spend or use the products. They rather use the cheaper stuff that gives the appearance of doing something. So I really I'm grateful you are doing that for a lot of people that do need that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like there was no doubt in my mind that that was the way that we should go about doing something like that, because honestly, it's like, what's the point of just putting another like nonsense product out on the market, right? I mean, of course, you can try to like grab some dollars, I guess, if you want to do that. But for me, I really want to make an impact in people's lives. I really know, as crazy as it might sound to some people, I really know the confidence that it gives people when they can actually feel good about their skin and they know that their issues are being cleared up. And that trickles out into every single thing that we do, right? If you feel good about yourself, you're going to be nicer to other people. Your interactions are going to go better. So it's like, I really want to make an impact positively on people in every way that I possibly can in my life. So it's like, I knew I wanted to create a really good product. And what's mind blowing to me about the industry, and you'll understand this, is that, it's not cheap per se to use like the better ingredients and to use the things that we're using inside of the products in order to, make an effective and efficient product. And especially for somebody like me, who, yes, we've sold out 6 times in the last year and we're doing lots of stuff, but I'm still not selling on the level of Clinique. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're doing millions and millions and millions of units like really quickly. So what's mind boggling to me is that while it is like higher priced in terms of like having to do that, especially at my level and with like better ingredients, at the level that they're doing it, they could be getting just as effective ingredients for pennies. And
All
then
bottom line.
it's all of it. And it's like, and they sell things, I mean, I think Clinique's like number one moisturizer is $92 and it's filled with junk, and if they had put even just like remotely some good stuff in there, I know personally it's not going to cost them that much to do it. But again, yeah, you're right. It's all about bottom line. And it's just like, it's sad to me. So, hopefully that's what my mission is in the skincare industry, is to try to make a difference in how people understand skincare and like really what it's doing for themselves, like in terms of education, not mismarketing and spreading misinformation like a lot of companies do, and to provide a better product that people haven't really seen on the market, because I'm not as concerned about bottom line as some of these bigger companies are.
Yeah. It's a shame sometimes what they do out there. I mean, I know for a fact, because the company I worked for made products for a bunch of other companies, and basically it was one base, and they just added stuff to the base for the different. It's ridiculous. There was nothing different. It was just crazy that this stuff sounds like that, because it was all appearance, touch, smell, feel, and there was no substance to it. There's nothing that was actually doing anything. So again, you are doing it the right way. I applaud you for doing it the right way.
Thank you.
Yes, it costs you more to do it that way, but that is the right way to do it, right? And these companies want to make 1,000% profit instead of spending a little extra, making 800% profit. I mean, you're still making a
I,
lot of profit, but they don't want to go that route.
I know,
Um,
it's mind boggling.
it's crazy. Yeah, and I know your line. I believe you started in 2019, correct? So you're 4 years in.
So I started my business in 2019, and then my line I launched last May. So we
Okay.
are like 14, 15 months in right now. And like I said, we've already sold out 6 times across the country, which is insane to me. But yeah, I mean, we have a nice presence like online. And we kind of, I do virtual consultations for people as well. So like I'll sit here and talk to you like this and ask you all the questions about your skin and whatnot to help you that way. So there's a lot of ways for me to connect with people digitally that helps to like get that out there too. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I worked on it for 3 years before that, before launching it. So just really making sure that we were like developing it the right way and whatnot. But yeah,
Yeah,
it takes a long time and a
it
lot of
does.
money.
It does definitely. We will, for the viewers, we will leave all the links and stuff for Amber products, for her line, for just about everything in the description below on the YouTube video. So you'll be able to find everything down there. Um, Maybe we can leave the information also for, I believe you said it was Brent, for
Yeah,
the guy teaching the classes.
yeah.
That would be good for anybody that's interested in as well for that. So we'll leave that down below as well. Let's talk a little bit about your comedy. I know that's a big part of what you do as well. Do you have anything coming up? Are you working on anything right now?
Yeah, so mostly when I do stand up, I do like open mics. And typically what I'm doing is really working out what's going to be good on the page. The stand up part for me is not like something that I'm pursuing as a person. I don't want to like be a stand up comedian. I have friends who are fantastic and would love to do that. And so for me, every time somebody's like, "Hey, do you want to do this show?" I'm like, "No," because I don't really want to like move this forward, but like if you want to give it to so and so, you can. I'm just kind of like I feel like sometimes like I don't want to be in the way of people who are actually trying to pursue a dream of being a stand-up comedian, because for me it's not something that I want to do. Do I enjoy doing it? Absolutely. It's incredible fun. I love it so much. And mainly again, it really helps me to do two things. One is to know if the joke that I'm writing on the page is funny because I get a reaction. And two is to make myself much more succinct when it comes to comedic timing and writing. So those two things are really what I gain out of doing stand up. And I'm not really trying to pursue it like as a career or profession or anything like that. But I do enjoy the heck out of it. That is for sure. And I will do it. You kind of have to, I think in my mind, I don't know if most comedians would agree with this, but I think in my mind that you have to be a little wild to want to do something like that, because it's it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Um, it's pretty crazy to put yourself up there and like not know if you're going to bomb or not, and everybody does. So
It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. And again, it's how you move through that and how you deal with that is kind of how your career goes on that side of it.
yeah, and for me, I'm like, you know what? Don't write that down. All right, that was not good. So, so it's
Like remove that page from the notebook.
yeah, please. And it's funny. It's like people will say, they'll be like, "Oh, my friends are here. My friends are here." People love when their friends come to see them. And I'm like, I don't want my friends anywhere that I'm doing stand up. First and foremost, I don't want them to know that I'm talking about them, because typically I am. Although I do have a disclaimer, and I usually tell people, like, listen, I'm kind of like a janky comic. So if we hang out, I'm likely going to write about you. Um, but I don't want them there for that. And I also don't want the courtesy laughs, because truly, I want to know if it's funny. So if it's not funny, like, I'm like, forget it. Don't
Yeah,
scratch it out, like, get rid of it, start over.
yeah, that's great. Future plans. What are your future plans? Things you want to do? I know you've been working on coding. I know you've mentioned that on X. But what are other things? What are other things that you're interested in doing? Keeping yourself busy for those free 2 hours you have in the day
I
that you're not doing something.
I know, it's so true. I'm always trying to learn something new or like do something new. There are goals that I have still that I have not achieved. And so I'm like, okay, I need to do that. Um, I would love to, well, I love creating content on X. So I will continue to do that for sure. And like just growing, my community there and seeing like what's what with that. I think that is going to become a very big platform in a lot of different ways. And not necessarily that I want to be like, oh my gosh, like I'm an X influencer, like I think first of all, it's not even going to be like that. It's going to be very different and a little bit more organic, I think, on that platform as things start to roll out and expand. But I definitely want to spend time there. I prioritize spending time there. I don't really spend a lot of time on any other social media at all anymore. So I definitely want to do some stuff with that and continue to do things there. I love to post up funny jokes and things that I do and random stuff.
Yeah. Your
So
page is great. And you've had some great growth from when you started. I mean, you've really grown.
yeah, I just got on there in June.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a fun time. I've loved connecting with people like you and like so many other people that I'm like, wow, I would never know you guys if I didn't jump on this platform. So definitely want to do some more stuff with that, because I think there's more opportunity there. I also, especially from a comedic standpoint, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I also want to, finish writing that book for sure. I'm a singer and I love to sing and do music. So I really would love to like work on a musical project at some point as well. Um, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I would like love to do that. And then of course with everything that I'm writing in terms of TV, I'd love to sell something. So what I really am waiting for is for all of this stuff to be lifted. I feel like finally, after almost 10 years, like I said, of writing TV episodes, I have content that I really believe in and have gotten great feedback on, and have really has a chance to do something. And so now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I am confident enough to submit this and to continue submitting this and to continue talking to people and hopefully getting like pitch meetings and whatnot once everything clears up, because I would like to do something like that.
Here's a question, because I don't know the answer to this. For anybody else that's interested in doing pilot screenwrites and stuff, is it a different submission process for, say, TV, like general networks, cable, or streaming services, or basically is it a submission that kind of gets fed out in all those directions?
It is different for everything. So like a lot of the stuff that you are doing in general, with all of that is very individual, and it's a lot about like who you connect with. So another great reason to take classes and to get into places where other people are writing TV is that you will come across people who are already actually working in the industry. I had a meeting recently with someone who works on set who's in my class, and has like a lot of insight on things, so they can always give you insight and pointers on different ways and avenues that you can connect with people. So a lot of it is based on connection first and foremost. And then you also have, a lot of different contests and different ways to submit. And those are all very specific, if you're doing comedy, if you're doing features, if you're doing TV, if you're doing drama, if you're doing whatever it is, they're all very animation, it's all very like specific and siloed into their own things. And honestly, rightfully so, because there's people who are doing animation who are animation experts, right? And then it's like, so if you send in an animation pilot to someone who doesn't really truly understand animation, it's like what we talked about in the beginning, it's so subjective, they won't get it. But somebody who does animation will really understand like what you're doing. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, a lot of different avenues that you would potentially be able to take. And then it's really just trying to get like meetings and stuff too. And I'm sure, there are people that I know that have had agents and stuff, just like book writers, right? But it's kind of like, I don't know, we're in a weird place in the world of streaming and whatnot, that it's like a lot of things seem to me, and of course, take my opinion, all of the things that I say with a grain of salt, because like, who the hell am I? You know what I
Willy
mean?
Wonka.
I mean, yes, I am. I am my self-proclaimed Willy Wonka. That's true. But it's like in reality, it's like don't take anything I'm saying so solidified, because it's like there's just a lot of moving pieces, and it's just like, and I also think we're in a different era. We're in a different place where it's like we're about to be, I mean, look at what's happening with AI, look at what's, what I mean, going on with all kinds of things. And people have lots of different like opinions on it. I think it's excellent in a lot of ways personally. Using stuff like that as like a brainstorming tool, like forget it. We've all been looking for brainstorming tools like that are like this, right? Forever. And it is just absolutely excellent at being able to sort out your thoughts and help you to do those things and organize things and whatnot. So lots of good stuff coming from there as well. But then also things we need to look at to say, okay, like how do we make sure that, people are still involved? How do we make sure that things aren't being taken or, moved around or whatever? So there's definitely like obviously both sides to it. But again, because of it, things are changing so much that it's like there's also things changing in the way that people are processing how they're going to do these things in the long run. So yeah, there's a lot that you could look into and a lot of different ways that you could probably go about trying to get your writing in front of someone. I mean, even again, Brent, he has had people in class where he's actually ended up mentoring them based on their writing or like based on like, looking over their stuff, because he does give opportunities sometimes to like send in your pilot if it's done and whatever. So yeah, it's just a matter of like trying to connect with someone, I think, that makes the most sense for what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And again, the key word I would think really is networking. I mean, just in general, that's always going to help you. I mean, I see a lot of times on X, Twitter, a lot of writers that only want to follow other writers and stuff, but it always confuses me because that's not really going to be your reading base, right? That's not, if you're just selling to writers, you're in trouble. You're not going to sell anything. But it's all those other connections. You just never know where they will, and come in handy. But I'm not saying you're looking for them specifically to use them. But
Hmm.
those connections are all very useful, and it goes both ways. Maybe there's something you offer to somebody. You may sit there and go, I don't know what I offer to anybody, but you never know. You just don't know. Somebody could be looking for something that you have expertise in, or something you have knowledge in, and that you were that missing piece that helped them get over that ledge that they were trying to cross. And it's probably the biggest thing is the networking part of it.
It's true. And honestly, I know people can look at that in a way where it's just like, oh, it's just like, so it's just who you know. So I can never, I can never. That's not it. It's, because sometimes, like you're saying, it's like you'll connect with somebody, like, for example, on X, where you don't even know who they are. You don't even know what they do. But like, there's been people that I've connected with that are TV producers, that are, movie producers, that are camera people, that are, all kinds of things where I didn't know originally when I connected with them that was what they were
Yeah.
doing for a living. But then coming to like know them and understand them and coming into connection with them, I find out these things and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Or like a music producer, different things like that, where it's just like, I was just talking to somebody the other day because my son does audio engineering and he's a music producer. And I was talking to somebody else who was like, oh, you know so and so? And I was like, yeah, I do know so and so. And they were like, yeah, he does music production for a living. I was like, what? Okay. And they're like, yeah, you should talk to him about, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was like, I definitely will, So it's like, you just never know. You never know. And again, it's like you're saying, it's not to try to like grasp on or hang on somebody else's coattails, but sometimes you do need some kind of insight into how you can get to where you're going, and just even having that available communication with somebody can be really helpful.
Hmm. Absolutely. For the viewers, again, I will leave all the links for Amber below, for her line, for her website, everything, even for the classes for Brent, and anything else we can think of that may be useful for everybody. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and definitely leave a comment for either Amber or myself, whether it's a question, something you enjoyed, something you want to know more about. Just let us know on that side. And I really want to thank you, Amber, for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Um, you're a great account on X. Basically, I knew at the beginning you were a ton of fun. You had a lot of candy and snacks all the time, and I was like, I gotta follow this one. She's great. But yeah, you got a lot of stuff that's great that you're working on, and very proud of you. And just want to thank you for coming on.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. And truly, same to you. I know you're one of my OGs, so I love that so much when people have been hanging around and they're like, "Wow, look at all the things that are going on." I'm like, "I know, it's crazy." It's amazing. So thank you so much for having me. And thank you and congratulations, really is what I wanted to say, on even doing all of this, because I know you were when you were talking about it, you were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to do a podcast." And I'm like, "Yes, do a podcast." And now you're like, episode 11. And I'm like, "Heck yeah." I've been talking about doing a podcast forever and I still haven't done one. So,
Yeah.
so
I
congrats.
mean, I'm like you. I have all these constant ideas, and I go, what if I do this? What if I do this? And you have to be in the mindset where you're not afraid to fail,
Yeah.
because that's the only way you're going to be able to do these things. You can't go in there and say it's going to work, I'm stopping. You have to be able to trust it, and just do it. And I thought this was a great way to introduce all of you guys to more followers, viewers, people. Every one of you guys are just so talented. And my thing is always, it's a shame not everybody gets to see you guys, right? And again, I don't know if this podcast is actually gonna, get eyes and for people to see. But if I can get a couple of new followers or readers or viewers when your pilots and stuff come out, then it's successful to me. And that's generally what the way I approached it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in anything, it's like in reality, you should never be out to like go and be like, it's going to be this crazy big thing. Like, I mean, I guess, sure, right? If you have that dream, like you have that thought, it's like good, have that. But in reality, it's like, what is the why behind it for you? You know, for me, it's like I said earlier, like, how can I make a positive impact on people? Like, what can I do to make a positive impact on people today on my account, on this podcast, on, you know, in the grocery store, like wherever I am. And so, yeah, I mean, even if at the end of the day, it does nothing, but, you know, shares Brent's class with someone who is a potential scriptwriter who ends up going on to doing something amazing. It's like, that in itself is enough to be done, right? So, I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully, when I'll say when, not if, when your pilot gets picked up, I can have you on again, and you can give us a little bit of more about it, and then discuss maybe your book coming out at that point too. So I
Right
really
on.
appreciate you coming on, Amber. Please, viewers, again, I thank you for watching, subscribing, liking, but please leave comments for us. Let us know what you enjoyed, what you liked, or if you have any questions. Thank you again, Amber.
Thank you.
Bye.